says it's going. I'm waiting for it to hit Facebook. I'm looking for any errors.
CashFlowDiary is live on YouTube. That just popped up.
Okay. We're gonna be on YouTube. We're gonna be on YouTube and both Facebook groups and the Facebook page. Is that you?
What?
Nothing. I'm hearing something.
Oh, nope, not me.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Did it make it to Facebook? I'm looking for Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I don't see anything in the group.
Hold on. Okay. You seeing it now?
I do.
Perfect. And well, we're gonna get this party started. Let's see what happens.
Jay Massey is a full-time real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur.
He also teaches people how to find deals, raise capital for real estate investments.
Meeting Jay Massey in person, you'd think he's just a regular guy. He's got jeans and a t-shirt on and a pair of sneakers. But he's built up a multi-million-dollar empire.
I hope you do have an empty notebook because it's going home filled.
Jay gives back so much value that I've never seen.
Now, at this moment, when I'm looking at the kitchen, things are going through my head.
You want to be friends with him, and he treats you like you're the only person in the room, even though it's for the benefit of everybody.
This is how, when you ask yourself, how does Jay do it? This is how.
He tells people that they have to take action, and they have to take action now. I took the action, and the results have paid off.
What happens when the marketplace understands who we are and how we go out there?
Okay, people. Hopefully things are going well on your end. We are doing things a little bit differently today, as you can tell. So I'm excited about it. And at the end of the day, we'll see how this goes. So some of you, if you are welcome, for those of you who are out there on YouTube, welcome. Facebook, we have our public Facebook group going, as well as our student Facebook group. And then some of you may be even seeing us on the Facebook page. We are constantly working, trying to make things better. And there was a request from one of the students, if you want to know what's going on. What's going on is that one of them said, hey, Jay, when are you going to make it easier for those of us with Apple devices to be able to, or mobile devices, to be able to come on live to ask questions? So that's what we're doing today. I am doing my best to make it easier for those of you who want to come on live to be able to ask questions. So what does that mean? That means that if you are able to, you should be able to go on any device now. You can go to cashflowdiary.com/live link. That's going to forward you to this particular episode of Since We're Here Live, and you'll be able to join us via Zoom. So in a perfect world, what's going to happen is I'll be able to hear you and see you. You'll be able to hear and see me, and so will everyone else, and we'll be able to talk in a live setting, assuming all of the technology is working and I got it right. So what'd you say, Dave?
Fingers crossed, everything works the way that it's supposed to. First runs, we beg for your patience. If this doesn't work perfectly, we will work it out.
Yeah, and it may take some time. But with that being said, as you now have just seen, we have someone with us today. So, Dave, why don't you go ahead and come out and talk to the people while because that'll give me some time to adjust some of the things that I see are not correct right now.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, if you could, for those of you that have made it all over to Zoom, just drop in the chat that you're here. I see Shelly Sim says, I love Zoom. We do too. We actually use it for all of our live trainings. We use it for a lot of our next step groups. For those of you that are familiar with the next step group, we use it as much as we possibly can because it just gives us the ability to communicate with a large group of people much easier than any other platform that's out there. And so that's why we're making this transition over to Zoom. And so for those of you that might have attended our last live training, where we went through getting your first short-term rental, where we talked about the short-term rental masterminds, our training and coaching program, that was over in Zoom too. So we are completely and totally committed to making everybody's lives easier, not only in their business, but with how we communicate and the technology that we use. And, you know, for a small group of folks out there being CashFlowDiary, doing everything that we can, we definitely love you and thank you for your patience as we try and do the best job that we possibly can. So if you could just go ahead and drop that you're here either in Facebook or in Zoom while Jay sorts out what he needs to sort out. Something that we're doing that hopefully you all have noticed is we're doing a lot more of the live trainings, right? Which takes something because we're all working on our businesses. And then we also have to stop and Jay goes into his studio and I'm here in my home office. You can see all my stuff behind me. And we actually have another one coming up, and something that people are not really tuned into, especially when you're building your business and you've got a handful of units, is how do you actually start interpreting the data that's available to us? There's a lot of software platforms out there. There's a lot of companies that allow themselves to be tied to Airbnb and various platforms. They deliver you data, they deliver you metrics, and then you're left going, well, this is kind of cool, but what do I actually do with that? And what you can do with it is you can actually make yourself a lot more profitable by just knowing where to look. So this is all about really increasing your financial vocabulary, knowing what metrics make a difference, what net metrics don't make a difference, how you're able to operate like a hospitality company, and why you don't need to go out and hire a data scientist to interpret all of this for you. So when the data's coming in and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, if I can make these adjustments here, I can become more profitable. If I make adjustments over here, I become more profitable. And those tweaks are usually one-time tweaks. You tweak them and now you're more profitable. And so what it means is that you actually make more money without needing to extend any more energy on your own part, which is really exciting. And the data just is not sexy. People don't think about the data side of it. They don't think about, oh, well, these numbers actually mean something. And if I apply them correctly, I can do a heck of a lot better. So our next training, our next free training, we're actually going to be going through your financial vocabulary. We're going to start talking about what data points make a difference, what data points don't make a difference, how to start taking those numbers, doing some real simple stuff with them and actually applying them to your business so that you can book more, make more money, know exactly when those reservations are coming in and what they mean to you and your business. And where you go to sign up for that, this training is it's August 15th on a Thursday. Where you would go is cashflowdiary.com/analytics. Again, it's just cashflowdiary.com/analytics. That will forward you over to a landing page that will let you sign up for this free training. So it's going to be live. Bring your Q&A with you and be prepared. If you don't have any units, no big deal. You need this information too. It's going to allow you to build intelligently If you have a unit, if you have 2 units and your data is already coming in, we're going to show you what to do with that. We're going to do all of that live. So again, cashflowdiary.com/analytics, get signed up now, and we'll go ahead and get that going. Okay. So with that said, Jay, are you ready yet? Or do you need a couple more minutes? He's laughing. Carol is in Zoom. Hi, Carol.
There we go. I was laughing, but I was also muted, was part of the challenge. And I was like, how do I get the mute button off? So I'm dealing with trying to figure out how to do the audio at the same time so that I can hear people like when you were talking without it feeding back into the system. So it was a small challenge, but I think I got it figured out.
All right. You sound great.
Excellent. If I sound great, then that's perfect, and that's important as well. So I'm gonna take the headset off unless one of you. Oh, there's people. Oh my God, there are people joining Zoom. This is great. So I would love to test. I don't know who wants to be the first. I would love to test with one of you guys so that just to make sure that everything is working. Who wants to be that first student to come ask a question? Using, in this case, using Zoom.
Shelton's raising his hand, so we've
got okay. Do we have to unmute him or something, don't we? Allow to talk. There we go. All right, got it. Go ahead, Shelton.
Hey,
hey, there you
go. Hey guys, hear me?
Hey.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if that's I believe that would be your connection, but we can hear you.
Oh yeah. On a Thursday, March, Monday, September,
you sound kind of like a robot right now. I don't know if you're in a place, if you're like,
okay.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm at work.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, much.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I want to know.
Oh no.
That's hilarious. Like really? Okay, so Shelton, we don't know what happened. But man, who else wants to try to be first? Because that didn't work. Anybody?
Nevin's raising his hand.
How do you see that?
It's in the participants list.
Okay, more to learn. All right, Nevin.
Hey Jay, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm good.
Am I? Jay, I just had a couple of questions. It kind of might be basic, because I'm still going through the training material, because the recordings, as there is a ton of recordings. The first thing is hiring a runner. If I hire a runner, should I give them a checklist like every week? Just come and check the inventory. What are you currently doing with your runners, Jay?
Got it. Okay, so I just want to make a qualification here for those of you who are for those of you watching on YouTube or on the Facebook page, you may not be familiar with all of the terms, so I'm going to kind of define that as well. But when it comes down, the runner is the person who typically fills in that middle on the ground spot is what Nevin is referring to. So for example, when you are running your units, you have a supply closet per se. It is not a best practice that we subscribe to have your supply closet be inside your unit, because it's more expensive and it just doesn't work out very well. Now, what he's saying is he's trying to figure out how to actually make that happen for himself. And he's asking me, what do my runners do? The one caveat I want to tell you, Nevin, is the fact that, remember, I have more units. So some of these things, so here's the rub. When you have more units, some of the things that for you, when you have less units, you can still, quote unquote, get away with doing them yourself because there's not enough physical work for someone else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So with that being said, in my world, the runners do literally everything that requires a physical presence. So let me give you some of that qualification. When, say, for example, in fact, we just implemented this today. Say, for example, we run out of laundry soap, dish detergent, or something of that nature. We have what I like to call procurement. At least that's what it's called in corporate America. We have a runner that is designated. We have a person that is designated to literally purchase to be able to restock via our Amazon business account, which allows me to set purchasing limits and all that other stuff so that we can get more supplies. When those supplies arrive, they then take them out of their box and put them in the appropriate spot where we're inside the designated storage unit. That person's job is to literally keep that storage unit full and organized, so that the cleaning crew has everything they need at all times. For all intents and purposes, the runner is support for the cleaning crew, because what you want is you want your cleaning crew to be the most efficient as humanly possible. So that sometimes, and once you begin to go to multiple locations, sometimes that means if you're running a central storage, you could have you could have a lack of linen at a different location. So sometimes that is meant the runner goes to the location where the linen is, to one central storage, and takes it to another city where there's another central storage out there in case there's a distribution issue. The light, now there's the procurement side, there's the and then there's what I call the facilities maintenance side. So now we're talking, hey, the remote control ran out of batteries, or the smoke detector is beeping again, or maybe the Vivint camera went offline for some unknown reason, or the Wi-Fi router isn't working. That's happened as well. I mean, things of that nature are all things, anything again that requires a physical presence of a person. Now, in our world, there are actually multiple people, so it's not like one person is doing all of those things, but it's mostly because there's enough work in each one of the things that I've named for it to occupy an entire person's time. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's they're really key to being able to help your organization run smoothly. So this person should have they should be borderline OCD. They don't need to necessarily be OCD, but they need to be borderline OCD, really good with inventory spreadsheets and communication, because there's a lot of that's going to go back and forth between guest experience. So the guest experience team is typically communicating to the runners, hey, this happened. Can you please send someone, or, can you fix this? And then that guest, the runner, needs to know who to call and what the next step is. Additionally, the runners typically also talking to corporate office, so to speak, for lack of a better way of putting it, in case something is running low in the supply closet, which is why we came up with a purchasing, with a way for them to do authorized purchases without corporate office intervention, so that now that too can be done pretty much automated, and you can still have your cash and expense controls in place. So they become a very central piece. So that's a long way of saying take your time in deciding who you want that to be.
Okay, that's okay. And one more thing, Jay,
Sure.
about hiring a VA. So I'm just looking at the different options, but the first step to train your VA, do you just give them the Airbnb account details for them to play around with to message the guests? Or because if that is the case, then it's almost open. They know how much revenue we are getting, what we're charging for the cleaners. It's So what are you doing with your VAs? Are you giving what sort of accesses are you giving to your VAs?
Got it. Personally, I don't have an issue with their VAs under seeing what the revenue of the company is. If anything, I think it helps them to see that one, he'll be able to pay me. This is great. And two, it gives them, I want more people to become entrepreneurs. So if we inspire that person to then go do the same thing, I'm totally fine with that. That doesn't necessarily bother me per se. So I'm totally fine with that. With that being said, they have now, we don't give them the direct, we use a password manager, so that's important for you to understand, and we don't give them the direct, so they don't ever have access to the direct password, but they have the same rights and permissions, because the way we have it set up, they're technically logging in under a administrative user. Now, with that being said, I do know that Airbnb has a team function. I haven't explored HomeAway and Booking.com enough to see if they have separate user functions at different levels. I don't think so, but as it currently stands, we have one user login for all of the profiles or platforms, and via LastPass, in this case, is the one that we use, is how they gain access. But I have no problem with them seeing the revenue, etc. Now, the main thing though, that and again, there are two sides of ways that you can approach this training issue. There's the bottom up method. It's what I like to call the bottom up method, where you are hiring the associate, the customer. I call them customer experience. You're hiring the customer experience person. This is the person who's going to have direct communication with your guest. Okay, so that's who you're hiring. Now, with there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. I just view it as a longer way. So, because what's going to happen is that you're going to have that person, or you're going to hire each of your customer service associates individually, and you're going to train them and make that and go through that process with them as long as it takes to get the number of customer experience personnel that you need. Then from that group, you typically will find the one who's performing the best and make that person your manager. The top down, which is what I prefer and what I did, is that I started by finding the manager, and I trained the manager, and then I trained the manager with a very clear direction that I'm training you so that you can hire whomever you want on your team, and you're going to train them. So you'll need to document everything I'm teaching and telling you, and then we'll know how good you are at documenting, because the people you hire will be following your documentation. And that's how I chose to do it. So, and so you could do it either way, but that's basically what I would recommend.
Okay. The main reason is I mean, I have just one unit started in April, and I'm planning to expand, but I'm just, since I've got a full-time job, it's nearly like 13, 14 hours a day. I just work, and I just don't have extra time to donate to this business. So that is what I just want to just lever some of the workout, whichever is, consuming most of my time, like, replying to each customer's questions and all that thing, which is kind of becoming a big headache for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It does, because you are 100% correct. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love our customers, but their questions come at always the incomplete, most inconvenient times on the planet. And if you don't have a system for dealing with that, then it's you. You are the system, and therefore that's the problem, my friend. So I 100% understand and agree that, so therefore you should invest the highest and best use of your time when time is tight is to build a system that someone else can follow, right? Because when you do that, then you have the freedom without sacrificing necessarily the revenue and profit. So you begin to share, and that's how That's how I am able to do things like this, like right here, talking to you, because right now we have all of our new guests arriving today. And if someone gets lost or someone has a question or they can't find their parking spot or blah, 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 they need a way to interface with someone who can help them. And they're not going to be like, oh, he must be doing a live stream, I can talk to him later. They need to know. They need their information now. And so the tighter, and for everyone watching, the more busy you are, the higher demanding job you have, the more I encourage you to do this particular business, because the income to time ratio gets very out of whack really fast when you have a complete system. And that's really what it comes down to. So Nevin, the biggest thing for you is, yes, to expand, but as you continue expanding, you're expanding with the understanding that you must build a system so someone else can run it when you're busy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I start when I'm just about to grow. That's what I was thinking. Okay, now I know how one unit works. If I'm going to get 3, it's going to be overwhelming. So can I get a person there in between that can be trained probably in 3 months or something? And when we have multiple units, it'll be easy for them, and it just takes a lot of burden out of my shoulders.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what you want. You want someone who could be that way, because then they can learn. Like if you bring them on now, what's cool is that the damage, so to speak, the amount of damage that they do is limited to just one unit. Whereas when you're doing this and you have 10, 20, 30 or more units, the amount of damage that they can do from a financial and reputation standpoint is much, much larger.
Yes. Okay.
Cool.
And yep. And one last question before I leave you. I want to expand. I think as for the financial module, you said about 2 things. One is we give an interest to our investors, and
Yes.
the second thing is partnership. Why do you say that partnership is that you don't prefer partnership, but your intent much towards interest?
Yeah, the reason it's not that I don't prefer partnership, it's partnership usually doesn't make sense from a numerical standpoint. Here's why. Because what ends up happening with either a lot of early stage companies and entrepreneurs is, if you bring on a partner, sometimes what the partner requires is I mean, and it sounds good at the time. They may say something like, okay, cool. How about I'll give you $250,000 and I'll get 10% of the company. And at the time, it sounds like, okay, that's wonderful. However, there's a couple of it's very, very short-sighted, because so with that $250,000, in most marketplaces, you probably should be able to get at least 10, maybe more, a lot more locations, depending on the customer type you're serving. It can vary. But my point is, with the $250,000, let's just say you get 10. You have 10 of those listings, and that's great. Everything's going awesome. They get their 10%. It's beautiful. What happens the moment you now want to do that again, and worse, they don't have another $250,000 to give? What happens then? How do you your what is known as your cap table, your capitalization table starts to get a little wonky, because now you've got to bring in another investor at a completely different valuation, and now you're down even more equity, or maybe now you're bringing in debt, and that's fine, maybe, but now that represents a risk to their equity that they originally put into the business, and it starts to get even more complicated. Not to mention the amount of accounting and your tax return also getting more complicated. And here's the thing. When I do the math for nearly every one of the students, and yourself included, the only thing you're buying is a little bit of time. So you make this trade-off. You end up getting married for when you should have just went on a date. That's really what happens. And at the end of the day, most of the time when individuals are coming to me talking about, hey, I found this investor and he wants, 10% or 20% or 30%. It's just too expensive. The money is too expensive. And what's worse is that they're only contributing capital, They're not contributing any sort of expertise. They're not helping you with the back office. They're not learning the business and helping you grow it in any way, shape, or form. And you still have to do all of that other stuff. So it tends to limit your growth, and it tends to limit your growth later. And heaven forbid, should you end up giving, like if you give away, and here's the true thing. Remember, it's a 3-phase system. So phase 1, you get 1, phase 2, you get comfortable with that. Then you grow to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 or more. And then at phase 3, now you're ready to buy real estate. Well, the moment you are trying to buy that piece of real estate and you want to leverage the fact that you have your short-term rental business running, one of the questions your lender will ask you, okay, they're going to ask you, who owns, are you the sole owner? And if you're not the sole owner, I need to know sometimes, and it's a different threshold. Sometimes it could be as high as I need to know everyone who owns more than 25% or 20% or as low as 10%. I need to know everyone who owns as much as any of those percentages, because not only are we going to underwrite your business and the company, but we need to see who else is there. And now you open up the company's ability to grow and to do something based upon some other third party who knows what's been happening. I don't know. There are just too many risks, and the money is too little, and you have to give up too much in order to make it work. And most of the time, you're only buying yourself maybe 6 to 10 months, because you can get there. This is one of the few business models that I've seen where self-funding is an actual real thing, and just deploying a little bit of patience and focus will get you there.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
And this chat was wonderful. It's good to speak one-on-one.
Yeah, we're doing our best to try to make it a better experience for everybody. It's taken some time to learn how to do these things. So I appreciate your guys' patience and allowing us to figure it out. So yeah, excellent. I see some more. There is now more people who are ready to come and chat. So this is good. Let's go ahead, Dave.
I have a question. So Rafa asks, are you connecting your booking.com listings with Lodify as the channel manager?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a yes, Rafa. And then Mariella asks, hello, Jay, is your manager in the U.S. or outside of the U.S., meaning your VA manager?
Oh, got it. Well,
I saw that look in your eye. You're like, wait, what? Yes.
Yeah, right. Totally. That's right. I forget. You can see so much more now with all this different stuff. You can
I've got it open on my phone. I've got it open on my computer. I've got the Q&A. I've got it all. So I'm doing.
This is great. So when it comes down to it, the Americans are expensive. Okay, so I am simply making a move that every entrepreneur has to grapple with in some way, shape, or form, is to figure out how to make their company, how to protect the opportunity and make their company survive and thrive. So the VA manager actually is Canadian, and so she's in Canada. So while she's not in the US, she is in Canada. But in general, that's not to say you couldn't have someone in the United States be this person. Americans are expensive. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. And that's not to say Canadians they're cheap either, but their English is good. So yeah, there's you've got to figure out where. So maybe even someone in the UK, it could work out for sure. Although the time zone, now you got a time zone challenge possibly there, but outside of that, those are the things. There are things to consider in that regard. So Canada was a great option in this regard.
Perfect. All right, we had a couple people with their hands up, but they put them down. Shelton.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted more talkers. All right, no big deal. It's all good.
Shelton, did you wanna hop on live? If so, just go ahead and put your hand back up.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, so I see the participant thing now. So what you're saying is when they raise their hand, I can then press a button that allow them to talk.
Correct.
I see.
Emily just put her hand up.
Perfect. Come on, Emily. Oh, does it do their video? I haven't seen any of their video pictures. Does it do that too? If they have their video on or no?
I believe you can give them that ability. I don't have that control as a panelist.
I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, we'll figure that one out another day. All right.
Okay.
All right, Emily.
You haven't permitted her talking yet.
Ah, there it is.
There you go.
Emily, go ahead. I see.
Yeah.
I pressed the button. I did.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can indeed, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I'm fairly newer, and I've gone through all the mastery training and the blueprint, and I'm going back through it all over again. But one thing I don't know if it's been addressed. I'm sure you've probably been asked a ton, but one thing that I'm really curious about is, you mentioned in the training that it's, we're not the same type of property. What we put into it, all of the amenities and features that we offer, we can price our units differently than what is currently, I guess, competition. And when I look at my hometown where I'm located here, the rising costs of homes and the prices of rent have skyrocketed over the last just couple of years. And so when I look at the current market, even some of them that look like they're having professional photos done and things like that, I just don't know how those prices of even just a contract lease can compare to even barely breaking even, let alone making profits. So I'm just curious how you guys are seeing that in your markets and how that's being handled, and I guess how to combat that.
I think I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Are you saying like you're going on to some of the marketplaces, you see the daily rates that are advertised there, and you're like, how can they sell it for that little and still make money? Is that really the question?
Yeah. So, in my area, and I know that this might be normal in some areas, but a 2-bedroom.
What is your area? Like what is your area? What is it? Are we talking the US? Are we in the United States? It's just first.
Yes. Yes. I'm in Spokane, Washington.
Washington. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
This is good. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, it used to be that you could rent a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right around $1,000. And now those $1,000 rents are closer to $2,000. And so when I'm looking at those, I mean, they're way above like what my house payment is. So my question is how, and when I look at the competition, when I look at the rentals that are currently listed in the area for, either HomeAway or Airbnb, they're renting these full apartments out for $30 to $60 a night. So, my thought is how are they combating the high rents to what they're able to charge for a nightly rate?
Got it. All right. So one of the first things to understand is you cannot do your due diligence around rates based upon what you see as the advertised price on a platform. Okay, so you end up with a false negative every day. In fact, I can technically, if I wanted to, I could engineer it such that you would always think of that. Here's what I mean. For the sake of just helping everyone understand, we'll take Airbnb because they're a popular one. Most people understand how they work. But this is a function inside their calendar. Now, anytime you've booked travel in the past, Emily, like a plane ticket, and have you ever like booked that plane ticket or clicked on that plane ticket, and by the time you got to check out, there was like, I don't know, $200 more than you thought it was actually going to be?
Yes. Yes. Okay. All the fees that add up and everything else.
Correct. It's the exact same thing that's happening here. That advertised price that you're seeing, for the most part, is the lowest price currently available, usually within a defined time period. So let's just say, okay, so today is Tuesday, right? The 6th. Let's just say that I had some time available this week, and you were looking to book it. But what I did is I made I made Tuesday the 20th. Let's just say I put Tuesday the 20th at $30. The advertised price that you might see is from $30. even though today's price, like for today, this Tuesday, it can be something completely different. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that is one of the major reasons you cannot just look at the platforms and go, oh, is that all they're charging? It's just not going to be. Plus, you're only seeing the when you do these searches, you're only seeing the ones that have not already been reserved. You're not seeing any of the ones. So the ones that are actually making money, you can't see them because they're already booked. So the platform will only show you the ones that are left. This is important because the ones that are often left, especially with close dates, are typically, not always, because there are other booking patterns at play, but those can often be some of the most inexperienced individuals simply because they don't have a pricing strategy, and now they're doing whatever they can. Furthermore, and here's the thing, sometimes you can do things like, okay, from $30, but it requires 8 days of reservation, right? So, and it doesn't mean the other 7 days are actually going to be $30 either. It just means if you want that $30 rate for this day, you're going to now have to book 8 days in order to get that $30 rate in order to make that work. There are so many ways to give you the impression when you're looking through the site that they're only charging $30. That doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah. That's what I kept coming to. I thought, no, the hell way, that's not going to work.
But that's not that. You are correct. It's not going to work, and it's just not what they're actually earning. What they're earning more. That's what I can tell you.
Okay.
Because we all have to you got to use all of the techniques in your arsenal in order to grab the customer. That's really what it is. It's a customer acquisition model where you're trying to break even on the first sale and you're hoping for repeat sales. So you're building the database. So don't worry, it's further in the materials. It's a longer strategy.
Okay. And I don't want to take up too much time, but can I ask you one more question?
By all means.
So this one's really an interesting one, but I don't know in other communities the struggle that everybody else is having, but here where I'm at, we have huge debates, even in our political arena, over the amount of homelessness and the crime activity that we have happening downtown. So I've been looking at units down there, and obviously there's a premium to pay for those units because they're right by the convention centers and all of the INB performing art theaters and all that type of stuff, which is where I would prefer to be if choosing the customer that I would like to serve. They'd be traveling in town for those types of venues. So would you look at properties outside of those areas just to avoid issues like that? Or would you look at properties that potentially could be impacted by those types of things?
Types of things like what? I maybe I missed the type of thing I didn't hear what is the impact other than the fact that it sounds like it's walking distance to what I would want to do.
It's walking distance to just about everything. But we have a very small city here with a very high amount of homelessness and crime that comes along with that. A lot of businesses downtown combat that issue, and we've had businesses actually close because of those issues. And so with having travelers and guests come into town, looking at some of these units, there's a lot of homelessness activity right outside the doors of some of these complexes. And so, my question is it wise to avoid downtown areas like that are struggling with those types of concerns and look for something outside the parameter of those walking distances? Or do you still go for the location based off of accessibility?
Got it. So inside the mastermind materials, there's a property evaluation checklist. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's on that checklist, we go through many of the things to pay attention to that would make me say yes or no to a particular property. However, so definitely go, log in, download, whatever. But you also want to know that, I like downtown areas, and yes, I understand what you're saying regarding homelessness, etc. And if I was I don't know how, there is no politically correct way for me to say, if I was afraid of homelessness. There's no way I could have any units in LA or probably even Long Beach for that matter, because they're there. I mean, now with that being said, we have a number of security measures to help our guests feel safe. So I want you to, so here's some real estate research. So one of the things as a landlord, traditional landlord, that we do when we're like, we'll have there was a building, it was 182 units in some of our smaller, 20 and 30 unit buildings. I want you to type this into Google later, and everyone else, you may learn a few things here too, is because what it comes down to is you want to be able to understand, just because you have a place that has the potential for something, what can you do to be able to defer it from happening at your location? Does that make sense? Because there
absolutely.
There are small little things that you want to do. Now, what I'm going to say, I'm going to give you the long name, and then you can type it into Google later, and you'll understand some more of what I'm talking about. It's called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, also known as CPTED, CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And sometimes it can be very simple. Let me give you a recent incident that we had. We have there's a location in Long Beach, and there's a trash gate. That trash gate for the dumpster was there, obviously, so that only residents could put trash in it. But the actual gate itself was solid. Okay, so it was solid. Now, and which seems fine, because you're like, cool, I want privacy anyway, right? It's a solid gate. Here's the challenge with a solid gate, that is the trash gate, in an area near homelessness, is that you now have people who are willing to either jump the gate and let their friends in and sleep there, because it can provide a sense of privacy and seclusion and safety, because it's solid and no one will know that anyone is behind there. Okay, so we had this issue to where we kept calling the police and all this other stuff to resolve the issue, because their guests would either complain and not feel safe, et cetera. And we understood. But here's what I mean: crime prevention through environmental design. We took that, instead we replaced the gate, and instead of it being solid, now it's wrought iron bars. So what was previously private, now you can see straight through. So no matter how many times we called, no matter how many times we moved their mattresses, no matter how many times we went in there and threw their stuff away, all that stuff, they kept coming back. No matter how many times we called the cops, didn't matter. But we changed the gate, and now it's no longer private. And now we have
exposed.
Exactly. So you've got things. So it's small stuff like that can sometimes that just changes the entire thing. I've done this where we have added street lights to a particular area. You add certain types of bushes that are still decorative, but yet they're just unpleasant if you ever touch them. So all of these types of things are things, again, crime prevention through environmental design. So it's not a necessary no. It's what could I do to turn this into an area that, well, because you can't solve homelessness, but you can hopefully have it not be at your location. You can just hopefully have it be not at your location. Does that make sense?
I think so. If it's not your building, though, you've kind of got limited options, but you could probably work with management.
True.
Yeah,
exactly. Because understand, you and management, you and the landlord, you're on the same. Believe me, if you're concerned about it, they're concerned about it. You're on the same side here, and that's my point. We're all trying to create clean, safe, affordable housing for people, and the only difference between your two is how long of a contract that your customer stays there. But everybody wants the same thing. So I find that a lot of landlords are amenable to this conversation. 100%. I mean, we even obviously external cameras, all of the things that can be done to make a place safe, we will do to make a place safe. And it has been reasonably successful at, deterring the elements that we don't want.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
So Jay,
Yes, Dave.
we got questions and hands piling up over here. All right. So,
Okay, are you trying to tell me that people tend to like this better? Are you saying that this is working better?
Really working. This is the.
But we're not getting anybody on video. That nobody's coming on video. I'm kind of disappointed by that, but that's okay.
So
go ahead.
So if you could, Lorena Lynn is next, and we should
go for it.
Turn off the talking permissions for Emily and Nevin, just to keep things clean. And then Lorena and Lorena would be next.
Okay, go.
I can't turn on those permissions.
I'm on that Q&A.
Oh, I have to do it.
Jay.
I gotta do it. Yeah, sorry, I did it. And Lorena, I can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I can indeed. Go for it.
Yay! Wow, this is my first time online.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the point. I figured people use Zoom are easier. Zoom is easier for more people.
I kind of get confused where to post a question, so I was post a question everywhere. I have no idea. It's first time I use I see the Facebook and Zoom all together, so I was.
You think you're confused? All the people on YouTube, we can't even see their chat right now. Oh, anyway, it's all good.
Okay. Right now I cannot see you. I just frozen, but I can see your voice, which is great. So my question is, I see you. I heard you earlier when you have a conversation with Naveen when I was on middle of it. When I come in, we're talking about partnership. We have right now the landlord offer the partnership. I know that it's a growing issue or scalability, but they want to partnership with rent free, and also they provide all the furniture and everything, and we split half. So that means that I'm there just to managing those property. If we build up the system up to that, and we have a pretty much nothing from our pocket in that point. And how does that? What's a pros and cons for growth in terms of you're talking about scenario of limited.
Got it.
Growth.
Got it. Okay, so I just want to make sure I have something clear around the deal structure. When you say you're partnering with the landlord, that means you and the landlord are partnering, or you and another person are partnering?
Me and the landlord.
You and the landlord direct. Okay, got it. And now, are you and the landlord forming a separate company or not?
An LLC on that.
Got it.
But the property is his.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have there's a number of concerns. For example, so there's a number of, well, let me ask you the question. Do you have your real estate license? And what state are we talking about?
No, California. No, I don't have a license. I keep reminding me that I need to have broker license, something like that, but I was like, no.
Well, and that's why I'm asking, because it depends on how we structure this, and that's why this is another reason why I like to stay away from the whole partnership area. So in order to make this work, what you would need to do is, obviously you're going to have to form a separate entity with the landlord, so completely separate. Then that new entity is going to need a real lease agreement from the landlord or from whatever entity is holding their real estate.
Right.
And then, and it's going to need a lease agreement from there. Now, once that part's done, so now we have the other issue of how the landlord's, what is technically going to be his capital contributions, going to get accounted for.
Yeah, that's a thing that the landlord, we both agree, if we can show in the book and show there's a lot of landlord want to show the book that we have a lot of booking and get benefit from renting out the units. But of course, they're going to have a disbursement on my side, so that will be kind of a separate book. But in the bank, it looked like he get benefit all of that, because on the end he's going to sell the property with those numbers together. But because
got it. I see what you're trying to do, but that's not
Yeah.
going to work because you have to have two separate. Yeah, it's not going to work because you need two separate entities. He has to show income he has to show rental income,
Yeah.
not business income, because now on the opposite side of what you're talking about, you would likely need a real estate license. Again, I'm not anyone's attorney or CPA or whatever,
Right.
but that what it would sound because what he's trying to do is he's trying to get full credit
Yeah.
for the revenue as a short-term rental,
Right.
and credit that towards the value of the
Exactly.
building. But the challenge is, honestly, the challenge for him is that you are there, and the only way he would be able to get full credit for that revenue is if you suddenly became just a management fee, and now we have an issue around the whole licensing thing because you don't have an actual license, and you wouldn't need a lease agreement in that situation. So yeah, and ultimately, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is you're trying to expand, and if you can find a way to take some of the capital risk or off your balance sheet, you'd get more units. That's all I'm really hearing.
Yes.
And I think that, again, this is a very expensive way to solve that problem.
Right.
That's just a very expensive way to solve that problem.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. I have another
Awesome.
dumb question.
Yeah, go for it.
I recently experienced a lot of home away, very headache problem. Seems like I don't know what kind of VA they hire from, but it's pretty much like a dummy. Like we are asking them to cancel the reservation because it's instant booking. We feel uncomfortable about people, and some of their representatives said it's okay to cancel it without penalty, and then later on say no, there's false information. If you cancel it, and you definitely get penalized, it will affect your metrics. So I don't know, like how does the people deal with a situation like that with a home away? And we pretty much have to build out the story that, hey, California is on fire. If you want to cancel a reservation, you can go ahead. But I try to figure out how do I efficiently run in the home away, because we constantly run into the situation to deal with calling the home away, and they don't really know. Like Airbnb are very efficient and they know what they are doing, and they're very helpful. But in home away, it was like, wow, what is going on? They just keep apologizing, but they are not going anywhere to share the phone.
Yeah. I'm not in a position to speak on their behalf. I can make a guess because I being a seasonal business, I can imagine that they have hiring practices whereby they staff up during a certain time of the year to try to do their best to handle the amount of calls, which on the flip side of that can create a training issue, which is what it sounds like you're experiencing. You're experiencing a serious training issue on their end. And again, it's not an excuse. I'm not saying you should accept it, like it, or anything, but it is your reality, and mine too. So the only thing I can tell you is that what we have been doing is calling 3 and 4 times a day, repeating ourselves until it gets resolved.
A good one. Okay.
Yep. That's what we've been doing. That's literally what we've been doing. No joke.
There's a very last question. I know some people already asked that, but I haven't really heard like a very the answer from I want to have more straight answer from you. It's about a runner. I constantly have a runner issue. And I really want to know, how do I hire the runner, and what's a typical rate for the runner? Are we paying monthly or every week, or we paying as a retainer? I find out this type of position is really difficult because it's involved a little bit of handyman's job. They have to know. So you hire somebody is too cheap. It's like high college or level. Is very irresponsible, or they are not hungry enough to make those money, and you hire somebody too experienced and it's really expensive. And I just have a hard time to find a right. We're kind of, like right now on the process of kissing frog, and try to figure out which frog is better. So I try to figure out how am I going to do the better job to hire a runner. Right now, we try to polish the system, just like what you said like earlier than a couple of weeks ago, and we want to polish the system in order to make it efficient. But the runner part is a huge part of this business, and I constantly have a problem with it.
Yeah, and I totally understand. I can sympathize, empathize, and tell you all at the same time. You're not going to like my answer. Here's why: the runner is a difficult It's a difficult spot to fill because the work is intermittent. It's not 100%. It's not the same thing every day. You can't. It's hard to say I can guarantee you 8 hours all the time. And it is so varied in its skill set and tasks. So the easiest answer to the runner issue is to make sure that they have enough work. That's the answer. But the way you make sure they have enough work is to have more units. And you're saying, well, Jay, I can't have more units because I have this runner thing that has to be handled first. So here's what I'm going to strongly encourage you to do. Follow the system. Here's what I mean. Make sure that your storage is centralized. Make sure that, because once your storage is centralized and external, a lot of things can calm down. Because if you can first do that, now the next job is to make sure that your cleaning crew always has everything that they need in order to do a turn without bothering you, unless they run into something that's broken. Next, again, if you have the correct security system for access control and monitoring, that's the next place where you're going to be able to gain leverage and advantage. And then, and I'm assuming you're using the communication tools for messaging, and you have a deep list of communication and questions that are automated and can be responded to. If you haven't done those 3 things, which is a ton of work,
you repeat again about the D list of responding and communication.
Deep list. You need a deep
list. Trello?
No. I mean, you need to have use leverage software that will give an automatic response to your most common questions. For example, what's the Wi-Fi password?
Oh yeah, we have those. Yes.
Yeah, but you need a deep list of those.
Yeah.
Like deep list, so that for the most, because you want to get to the point to where I would easily say 70, if not 80% of your reservations can be 100% automated in terms of their communication. Right. And delivering the service without human intervention. Once you're there, those things will lift and give you some time, which means you go get more units. Because the challenge with the running position with that operations assistant is probably a better term, is the fact that if you only have 1 or 2 or 3, the frequency with which you need them isn't that, well, it's just not that frequent. But when you have 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 units, you need them every day. And there's never a shortage of something for them to do. And it gets easier as you get larger. Okay? I'm going to go ahead.
Thank you so much.
No problem. No problem whatsoever. Let's see. This is kind of fun.
Shelton would be next.
Where is he? Shelton. I'm glad you're there to pay attention to that, because I would mess this up. Go ahead, Shelton.
Hey, Jay, can you hear me now?
There you go. There you go.
All right. Yay! So my question is, on a 30-day market, I'm trying to do the MPP pricing for September, but do I drop the prices to the whole month and then October, drop all the prices on October and so forth?
Got it. So let me ask a couple of questions. Is someone in the place now?
Yes. Okay, August is booked right now.
August is booked. Are they? Yeah. And they they're leaving?
Yes, they're checking out the 31st.
Understood. But here's
Yeah.
what I'm really asking. Have you asked them, like said, hey, just curious, we're as the next month approaches, do you need an extension or are you considering staying longer? I would like to give you a first shot before we get it booked. Have you asked them that question?
Oh, no, I have not.
Okay, step number one right there. That'll buy you some time. Number two, when you are doing a 30 days, yes, you should be in a perfect no sweat world situation. I would want to be 30, a minimum of 30 days ahead, preferably 60, so that I'm not stressing.
Yeah.
So,
well, we just listed in July. So
that's what I'm here to say. You're new, so it's not necessarily that bad. And yes, I would easily say that 2 months out is significant enough for your discount curve to be in play.
Okay. So when you do the discount, we're using Wheelhouse. So right now, I set the pricing at I set the pricing at conservative because I wasn't sure if just
you're not going to be able
leave
to
it
use
at.
You're not going to be able to use conservative because conservative still does 21 days ahead. You're going to need to do it on custom as opposed to conservative.
Okay.
It doesn't go far enough ahead for you to be able to use one of their predefined templates. That's a good thing. You know what? The next time I talk to them, I'm going to bring that up.
Perfect. And I
guess
guess
that discount curve should be relative to your minimum stay. That's exactly what the problem is. I like that. That's a good point.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm glad I could help.
Yes.
So, and that being said, with a 30-day market, do you have any kind of training or anything with kind of more catered to that style of short-term rentals?
Stay tuned. I am literally testing things right now just for that. So to give you an example, I'll tell you this one because I know it'll work. One of the things that I have already done is I'm offering what I'm calling, and it depends on the platform, but I'll call it an instant book special. What that simply means is no further discounts, but it's an instant book special. So in the case of a 30-day, I'm willing to put money on that it is better for you to keep the price the same and give a free TV, 50-inch 4K HD, just like we use in the units, than it is for you to give the discount.
Wow, that
I've already done this. Yeah, so I'm developing things like that so that and I'm going to show everybody how to do it. I'm going to show everybody how to do it. But at the end of the day, that's the concept, that's the idea, and I have a number of items and ways for everybody to be able to do that at a very inexpensive to us cost, and definitely cheaper than giving a discount, especially when you're at the 30-day mark. Because at 30 days, man, sometimes that discount can be really deep, and I would rather, these TVs, we can get them for what, $280, and most people don't know how to get a 4K TV 50-inch for $280, but we do. And then we just tell them, we don't tell them it's a $280 TV. We say it's a 50-inch 4K TV. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. That makes total sense. And can I ask one last question on? Sure. Since 30-day markets, we could end up with orphan weeks. And we can't really do anything with it.
Yep.
Or is there?
No, it's not that. Yes, no, you're 100% correct. So here's the other thing, and again, this quarter has been all about it, is what are some of the other additional revenue streams? So make sure that you're coming to the data analysis training that we talked about, because I'm going to show you how to determine like where you might be able to based upon your data, where you're not charging enough, possibly charging too much, and identifying additional streams of revenue, which is really what I was hinting at. So when you can identify additional streams of revenue, they begin to make up for your orphan weeks, right? Because that's where we have to get, that's where you have to use additional, that's where we have to use additional streams of revenues to make up for those. For example, an early arrival fee, like that's why my early arrival fee is $100. We don't do late departures, but we'll do an early arrival. And we'll do an early arrival of $100 because I know at any one of our locations that more and pays for the day previous that was vacant. That's a very simple, easy understanding of how to do that. But you're saying, well, Jay, how do I come up with something that covers an entire week? And I say to you, I'm willing to bet that there are people who would pay for a concierge for even if it's only for a weekend or two when they're out there. And I'm willing to bet that you could find the arbitrage there to make that work because you're in Hawaii.
That's true.
So
good point.
So it's stuff like that you just have to get more creative with what additional services means so that you can make up for those things.
Perfect. Right on. Thank you, Jay.
No problem.
Okay, so with that said, cashflowdiary.com/analytics will get you to register for that. Right, cashflowdiary.com/analytics. So
I want to see somebody do video. Sorry, I'm all right.
Yep. So I'm gonna do the lightning round on the questions. I've got a list here that I've put
Go for
together.
it. Go.
So Mariella asks, the AC in one unit blows cold air, but it never really gets cool. It doesn't really cool the entire unit. Maintenance says it's ice buildup, and we keep apologizing for the quote unquote inconvenience, but we want to fix the issue and make sure we don't get any bad reviews. What ideas do you have about solving something like this?
It's counterintuitive, but the answer is turn on the heat.
Turn on the heat. All right.
Turn on the heat. It'll melt the ice. Because you have an issue in the line in the condensate and they're letting it run too long. That's really what's happening, is because they're like, oh my, it's so hot. Keep it on. And you can't do that with older AC units. So the answer is to turn on the heat, like leave the house, turn on the heat, so that you can melt it, or maybe even take a blow dryer to the line. You just have to melt that ice, and that ice is not going to, it's just not going to melt with you continually running the AC, and that's the problem. Now, once you've got it melted, then you got to deal with the water issue, but that's the answer. The answer is turn that on. Now, you can also get an evaporative cooler that sometimes can help as well, because we have them, but you know, it is what it is. When people get hot, man, they get cranky. So go.
Okay. So Rafa is asking about LastPass. He's saying, would that work for something like Netflix in case a guest logs out and I need to give them a password to log back in?
Got it. So it would. However, with Netflix, I created extra emails and dummy accounts for the Netflix account. So I just don't care if they have access to that email and password. I just don't care.
Got it. All right. For me, I'm like cringing a little bit at that idea. So Jody Durbin is asking about when you were talking about the $30 per night, how that pops up on Airbnb and it advertises this low rate. He's asking, would that $30 be only for the first day, with the other days being more?
It could be for any of the days, and yes, in general, when I do it, because this is a very common practice, I promise you're not getting every day at that rate. You might get one day at that rate, and it's probably a Sunday. No, it's probably a Tuesday, maybe a Monday, but definitely a Tuesday. The other days are normal price, and sometimes the other days are marked up to make up for the discount on the first day. So, yeah.
Okay, so Lisa asks, she's not this far in the training, but is there any guidance on creating a name when you're building your LLC? Like, do you have any ideas around what kind of, so it's a brand question, right?
Got it.
What do I call my company?
Got it. I don't care what you call your company. I care more about what you call the DBA. So that's another way of me saying I'd rather you get started and not get stuck on the brand name because it's not that important. If that's something that's stopping you from getting started, then please just do something. Now, if you're already started and you're asking that question, the things that I care about or I think you should think about are things that can be spelled easily. For example, the name of my company is CashFlowDiary, or the DBA technically is CashFlowDiary. Do you know that most people spell it CashFlowDiary? Yeah, anyway, or they call it CashFlowDiaries, plural. Don't do that. That's an example of what I'm talking about. You also want it to be what I call radio friendly. For example, if the name of your place was Sweet Life, the challenge with that is that the word sweet could be spelled SWEET or SUITE, right? And that becomes a challenge. Plus, I may not remember it. So you want something that when all they did was hear it, they can remember it. And so you've got a number of filters to run that through at the end of the day. And then if you're so lucky and so creative to have that name then kind of tell what you do at the same time, then you've probably found it. However, that's a very quick answer for a very long question.
All right, perfect. And then Lisa also asks, do you recommend having a website so that you appear more professional to the property owners? If so, does anyone have a website that I can see?
Got it. You do want one, keywords eventually. You don't need one to get started. I wouldn't concern yourself. Now, assuming you're not doing the ultra high end, because if you're doing like ultra high end where you're doing $10,000 a week type stuff, you're going to need one from the beginning. If you're not doing that, then you've got time. Use the platforms for now in order to do your customer acquisition. And man, no sooner than 5 units. I can't see you getting much benefit from a website. And more importantly, when you're beginning to be ready to develop direct relationships with corporations, that's really, really, really when you need it the most. If you're trying to do the government play or the corporation play, that's when you need it the most.
All right, got it. And then Crystal Donald has her hands up as wanting to come on.
Right. Oh, that means I have to do something. I forgot. Yep. Hold on. I hit that button. Okay, now she has to unmute herself. Yep. And it should. I hope.
Crystal, you just need to unmute yourself and then you can chat with us live. And she also typed in the Zoom chat, so I can just read it and hopefully, wait, let's do that. So Crystal Donald says.
Hello, can you hear me?
There she is.
Oh, okay. Yay, okay. All right. Yeah, I typed it because I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it on, so I was like, oh. But I've been out talking to different landlords and stuff, trying to obtain more units. And what I've been running into is a number of landlords are like, hey, I really like this concept. I want to do it myself. But of course, obviously they don't have the same knowledge that I have. And they're like, but I want to do it on my own, but I want you basically to kind of help me set it up, hold my hand, and that type of thing, which is kind of frustrating because I want to be able to control that revenue. But at the same time, I also see a possible revenue stream from an education perspective and maybe getting, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe some kind of upfront fee or some, plus some kind of percentage of their first unit revenue. But that sounds like partnership, a joint LLC. I'm trying to figure out how that will work and how it was set up, or even if it's worth my time and headache to even do that. So that's question one.
Okay. The answer is it's not worth your time. I could go through the math, but it's
Okay.
not worth your time.
Okay.
If you really, really want, we could do that, but it's not worth your time.
All right.
It's hard for someone to properly compensate you for what you could otherwise do on your own. It's really, really tough. Now, don't get me, I mean, again, even our educational stuff that we sell is not, there is no person has, like, of all the people who sell other educational stuff that we know or have ever partnered with, all the people, all the names that you know, when they see what we're priced at, they're like, you guys are crazy because it's too cheap. Because and we don't have a way of pricing it properly for the actual value that it creates for people. And the same is true for you, because what you know is ridiculously valuable. Okay, so in fact, let me ask you this question: that first unit, how many hours do you think of did it take you to pull all that together? Just the first one, just one.
Oh, just to get it set up and ready for the first guest. I couldn't even calculate. I mean, Latanya had a good heavy lifting on that, so that was good. But the setup, the setup of like Vivint and all the other systems, Smart B&B, and even just coordinating and negotiating the lease with the landlord. I don't know if I sat down to write, it would be a lot.
Exactly, but that's my point. And here's the challenge: is that oftentimes people in that situation, they're going to want to pay you for the number of hours it is. And it just doesn't work out, because you're going to say something like, it would not be out of the expectation to say, okay, sure, I'll set it up for you, but it's going to be $25,000 on top of everything else. Now, no, very few people are going to say yes to that.
Right.
But even that is not enough to compensate you for your time, because what you're building, when you build an asset, specifically, you are completely building an asset, an entire system, a stream of revenue. Even if it's only one unit, you are building someone else $50,000 of annual revenue, and they want to pay you what?
They don't even know, but probably not $50,000.
and they're going to have it for how long? And then after it's built, guess who they're calling for all their questions?
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I think about it every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I'm messing with you, but understand, I went through. We did what we did so that it would be easy for me to answer everybody's questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I know the questions are going to be there. So to try to say that, hey, I'm going to teach you something and then good luck, that's doing you a disservice. It's not going to happen that way. You know what it's taken for you to learn, and now you're saying, Jay, is it worth my time to do that? No, not really. That's another way of saying, Crystal, I lose money by teaching people. And I know that, and that's okay. I've made my peace with it, but I just want you to understand that I would make tons more if all I did was focus on the short-term rentals, and that's where the majority of the revenue comes from.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So then along that same vein, some other questions that these landlords are coming up is like, oh, I know other people, and they want to refer their friends or whoever they know in their network that may also have houses or units available. And they're like, what can I get? They're trying to figure out again how to monetize their network, basically.
Oh, that's fine. I can give them $100 one time. Sounds great.
Okay.
Because they can't. That's fine. I'd pay $100 for a lead to a landlord all day long, because they can't guarantee. They can't guarantee that that landlord's going to do it, or let alone do they have enough units. They can't. There's so many variables, but I would definitely pay money for a lead. Sure, why not?
Oh, you're paying for the lead. See, in my mind, I was thinking like once the lease is signed, like.
Okay, so then you're paying. All right, that's fine too. That's a different model, and I have no problem with cost per acquisition. Then now maybe I'm paying $1,000. Cool.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. That can be kind of efficient. I write you a check right now. Where are you, Charlotte? Yeah.
Yep.
I got a check in the mail today. I need 20 leases. You ready?
Now.
You ready?
But in that process, so in my mind, I'm thinking, I was like, I would probably want to specify, okay, yeah, these are my parameters. I want it, using the system less than, 1,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms or less,
Yep.
probably
yeah,
2 bedrooms
absolutely. You would
ideal,
have to be very
that type of stuff.
specific. You need to communicate to them who it is that you serve so that they give you the right product. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Because you still have to stay brand specific. You still have to stay on point with your brand, whatever that is. But yeah, and that's why I pay it. Yeah, I definitely pay $1,000 for a lease like that. You bring me a lease that fits what I'm looking for, I'll stroke that check right now.
All right. I like it. Okay.
Cool.
Very good. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Oh, Dave, this.
Two Vivint questions.
Oh,
So,
there's more. Go ahead.
Laura, Mariella.
Okay.
Because her husband is her runner, and he always.
Oh, that's how we started too. But it was actually Pop. It was Poppy at first, believe it or not, and then she shut that down pretty fast.
And I quit. Here's my notice. It's effective today. I'm not giving any day's notice. Just letting you know.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
That's pretty much how it happened.
So Eddie always needs to go to the Vivint panel to erase the old user and add the new user. Is there an easy way to do it?
Oh, I know what you're doing. Got it. Yes. Let me see. Hold on. I might be able to show you on my screen. Let me see. I know exactly what you're doing. Don't do that. Okay, we're gonna fix that. Yeah. Because you don't want to do that. I mean, yeah, you don't want to do that because that's hard. Go ahead and ask the second question while I pull up I'm pulling up stuff on my computer.
Okay, so Nicole asks, how do you handle Vivint? Or is it better to have the owner set it up on their own? And are there fees to have you handle the Vivint? So I think it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how Vivint works into the system.
Yeah. No, Vivint is something that you want control. You always want to control. You always want to have access control. Period. You want to control who can go in, who can go out, who has access, when that access occurs, 100% of the time. So it's an expense on your end, upfront expense on your end. However, when ran properly, what happens is that you have a more secure and safe environment, which protects your relationship with the landlord ultimately and the neighborhood, and then even legislators to some degree. But because humans are so horrible at following your written house rules, if you have well-written house rules, we make money on our Vivint system every month, meaning, yes, it has a monthly service fee and all this other stuff, but because of the Vivint system and the other tools that we've put with it, what ends up happening is we have all of the documentation to prove beyond empirically. It's not an opinion. It's not a we think they had. It's a we can prove with actual physical documents that you had more people there. You had a dog there. You were smoking. You were smoking specifically in this particular bedroom. We can prove everything we need to prove in order to justify any charge or violation. And because humans choose to violate all the rules, we collect a significant enough revenue from fees and those violations and extra person fees and all this other stuff to where the cost it would cost you money to not have the system in place. Anyway, so yeah, that's the answer there. So I am going to let me see. Is it in my? this screen. Is this the right one? Yes, there we are. Is that it? Okay, so what I've done is I've got I logged in, Mariella, so that you can see this. And right here is one of my units. And under the users section, right here where it says, right here it says West Egg Rentals Guest. So the only thing that we do is we log in, well, one of our staff members actually logs in here at 11 a.m. because 11 a.m. is our departure time. So they log in at 11 a.m. and then they just change the code to anything other than what the code was previously, okay? And typically we use the last 4 digits of the guest's phone number. That's typically what we use because that can be automated. Anyway, so it just changes it so that it removes access for the guest. Whether or not we have another person arriving is irrelevant at this point. The point is that the current guest now no longer has access. We changed the code. Then the incoming guest at somewhere between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., that code gets changed to the appropriate code for this new guest. All of this can be done from your cell phone. It can be done on the computer like you're seeing right here. It can be done, yeah, cell phone, computer, tablet, whatever device, as long as you can connect to the web, you're able to do it without having to physically go there. That's how we have chosen to do it because that's way more efficient than physically going to the panel to do that updating every time. So yeah, please don't go to the panel anymore. No need to do that. Do it from your phone.
Okay, and Nicole is asking more questions about Vivint now that the ball has gotten rolling. It said, how do you roll it out to new prospects? Prospects meaning homeowners you're pitching it to. So again, I think really what she's asking is like, how do you let?
Got it. I think I got it.
How do you let the homeowner know that you're going to be putting one of these in their unit for your business? And I'm assuming here, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're not managing these for other people, right? You're not an Airbnb manager for other people's units. You're actually building this business for yourself. You're running the business yourself. And the reason why I asked that is because you have another question that says, what's the best way to invoice your clients? So if you mean your customers or your guests, then yeah, we're all on the same page. So maybe just clarify that you are in fact building your own short-term rental business, or if you're operating as a manager, because that'll help us narrow in how we're addressing the question.
Yes, I am. What does yes, I am mean?
Yeah,
yes,
yes you are. Okay. She's operating as a manager. Okay, that changes everything. All right.
Got it. Now I understand. Yeah, now I understand. So very clearly, very directly, that particular business model is not one that we really support because I think I would rather you have direct control over the entire property. So as far as invoicing your clients, I don't have any best practices around that because we don't manage for other people. I don't teach managing for other people. Although there are some students who manage for other people. I'm beginning to wonder if Nicole's actually a student right now. I just don't know because we're on so many channels today, Dave. It's amazing. Anyway, kind of excited.
Could have come from
what's that? Yeah, she could have come from like literally anywhere. Like YouTube, but in the Facebook page. It doesn't matter. I'm kind of also glad that all of this stuff is working still. So now I understand why you have the whole questions around Vivint, because you're telling someone else that you're going to be changing, as part of your management procedures. Now, if I was managing for other people, it would be very simple. It's like, this is something you will buy or I will not be your manager. Because having had thousands, and I mean many thousands of guests, I don't want to, I'm not touching the property unless I can have the system. Yeah, there's no other way to say it. I'm just not touching the property unless I can have the system because it takes so much headache and it does a lot of the heavy lifting and removes all of the guessing. And unfortunately, not every one of your customers tell the truth. We have documented cases where guests have said things like, or they send in messages saying, hey, the heater doesn't work and this isn't working and I have left, so I want a refund and blah, 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 blah. And they'll do that at late at night, like an 11 or a 12 or a 1. And because of the things like the Vivid system, we know that you're still there. You haven't left. And we have documentable proof about that. We've even had people say things like, I can't find parking, which, well, again, it's very common, especially in LA and Orange County. I can't find parking and I've been stuck outside for this length of time, blah, blah, blah. And I want compensation for all of my trouble. Cool. Check the camera feeds. They're chilling inside the house. In fact, you see them sitting there. In fact, in this particular case, not only were they inside, they had ordered food. You saw the delivery dude come to the door multiple times. It's a long way of saying there's no way I just wouldn't manage for someone else without it. So therefore, for me, it's not even a conversation of can I? I'm not asking for anyone's permission necessarily to do it, because here's what it is. I am working to make your environment safer. Because see, here's the thing. Even for those of you who are traditional landlords, here's the thing. Your traditional building is less secure because you have no clue who or how many copies of that key exist at all. You don't know. Just that alone is enough for me to want to have, like I said, access control. You must absolutely have it. And I grew up overseas, military kid. It was ingrained in my head, safety and security all the time. And that hasn't left me. So I'm always thinking about it. Now, I'm not necessarily concerned about someone trying to snatch an American because I'm here right now, right? But it is definitely something that's constantly on my mind when I'm providing clean, safe, affordable housing to individuals. And that's, so yeah, to not have it, it's not even like, oh, please, sir, let me. No, this is part of the deal. So that I can run the type of business that I know I can run, that can provide a clean, safe, affordable environment that still gives your other residents quiet enjoyment, that makes sure that the police aren't here every night. All the things that I know that I need in order to keep out the unwanted element and to make the revenue that we're looking for.
Okay, so she went on and said the guests don't have any uncomfortable feelings with cameras inside the house.
There are no cameras inside the house.
Right. The way that you worded that, it sounded like you were staring at the guy sitting on the sofa. That's how I heard it. That's how I heard it too. And I'm like, wow, I hope he clarifies that.
Okay.
Everyone, that is illegal. Do not put cameras inside your house, please.
Yeah, no. We're not staring at people in the house. However, wow, that did come out so bad.
Came out really bad, Jay.
That came out really bad. But we can have now, part of a lot of security systems, Vivid included, they have a motion detector, right? Well, if they are not physically present, there should be no motion detected. And if they're saying they've been stuck outside for the quote unquote last 2 hours, and it's now, let's just pretend it's 6 o'clock, and they say, I've been stuck outside for 2 hours. Okay, so if I look in the history for the last 2 hours, I should not see any motion. That's just very simple. Now you say, well, that's not, well, what if there's a cat? Well, cool, there shouldn't be a cat either, but that's a whole other story. Okay, so with that being said, we also can monitor the level of noise, right? So there's a certain level of noise that should be in a vacant a building as well, or a vacant apartment building. Even if you have neighbors next door, there's still a certain level of noise that can be monitored. Again, it's not a recording device, it's a noise monitor. I can tell if someone is there. I can tell if someone is not. And when you put that together with all of the timestamps and the doorbell camera, you can know whether or not they're lying. It's really, I mean, it's simple. And you can go one further step. This one is kind of this is kind of like guerrilla tactics right here. So let's pretend that you were also, again, if you're following the system, you have a smart thermostat. So many smart thermostats also connect with the Vivint system. Okay, cool. You're not there. So let me turn the temperature way up or way down. And if the temperature suddenly magically moves back, how did that happen? That doesn't happen on its own. Unless you're there. So there are so many ways to determine if someone is in your house without having a camera staring at them. Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So what he's saying, everyone, is that it gives him immutable proof that when somebody's demanding a refund and they want to take this up with Airbnb and they're being a little bit shady as far as our definition of what a good guest is, we are able to, with documentation, avoid the he said, she said that would then come into play. And Airbnb customer service has to play both sides of that equation. And if there's anything left up to debate, a lot of times they're going to want to try to side with the guest. And so these people, knowing that you're not there, are going to try and get away with what they can get away with and get $100 back or $150 back or whatever. And you can say, absolutely not. Here they are entering the unit. Here's all the motion. Here's the motion logs of them being inside the unit. And it just becomes a non-issue at that point. And the same thing is true when they check out late and you have policy that says, hey, when you leave late, that's $150. That's $200, depending upon how late they stay. My wife and I actually had a guest stay until 3:00. And we were able to bill because the person who was on the reservation left, leaving their quote unquote boyfriend in the house, who didn't know that the reservation ended in 2 days and swore that he had 3 more days worth of access. Right. So we're able to show all this, get them removed, cancel the reservation, and it's all handled in a couple of minutes because you have the logs. And so Nicole asks, oh, well, my client has ADT. Well, this is not ADT. This is a step above. This is smart home automation that also gives you direct lines of communication with all of the emergency services, police, fire, ambulance, right? You have a direct line. And something to Jay's guerrilla tactics, should you actually have a guest who's not leaving, you can actually just flip on the alarm, right? And have a direct line to emergency services. So that's why we promote the smart home system. That's why we specifically use Vivint, because it's what we use in our business and it's just simply what works best. So for your customer, Nicole, that has ADT, recommend removing it. And again, using Jay's hardline approach, if you don't switch to Vivint, I can't manage your property, right? And here's all the reasons why. You have a laundry list of reasons why it's just a better solution, namely everything that it does. And more than likely, it will probably be less expensive monthly than ADT. Vivint is not an expensive service, not given everything that it gives you too. So you could look into that for yourself.
And even if it's not even looking at that from just the straight cost benefit analysis, what it really comes down to is, sorry, my wife has a great sense of humor because, as many of you know, we've recently moved, and one of the things she has always said that I needed was some sort of notification so that she or the kids would know if I was in the process of recording in any way, shape, or form. So she just nonchalantly slid this on the desk just now, and it's pretty awesome. Anyway,
I'm gonna get you a red light that you can flip on outside the door.
Exactly. So I think the name was Nicole. Nicole, the other thing that you have to understand is let's just remove money off the table. Well, I can't really remove money off the table, but let's talk about, we're not even talking about the cost of the system. We're going to talk about the cost of the man hours it costs you because you are not running a consistent system across all of the properties that you're managing. If one property has ADT and the other one has Vivint and this one has nothing, all three of those are 3 completely different ways of resolving what could be the same issue. And that's going to make it very, very expensive, darn near impossible for you to scale and bring on staff so that you're not the one working 24/7. You need uniformity across the properties, and you need that uniformity to be such that the lowest common denominator can run it. This is why Subway, McDonald's, Quiznos, let me think of something that's not fast food, cruise ships. This is why they are able to do and deliver the value to the marketplace that they can, is because they're doing the same repetitive tasks that are boring and mundane, but they've reduced complicated procedures down to flip this switch, done, you know, that type of stuff. And you will not be able to do that if your customers, or if they're not all running the same. So it just, I mean, that'd be the same like having, could you imagine, just think about this. If you, and it's something simple, but it's going to cost you man hours to do. Imagine every one of the televisions in one house, 3 TVs, but one remote uses a 9-volt, one TV remote uses AAA, and one uses AA. And then the customer says, the batteries in the remote doesn't work. Can you send someone to fix it? Which batteries do you need to go buy? And now, and more importantly, now you're keeping 3 different types of batteries around just in case, because you just don't know. As opposed to if everything was on AA's, then you know it's a AA. It's
yeah,
just
not to mention the standard operating procedure documents that you now need to have on 3 different remotes, right?
Exactly.
3 different set of instructions, everything queued up.
Do it.
Smart BNB. Like, if the system is what makes it work, which is why we say, you know, just keep the system, don't break the system. People aren't thinking down to like the remote control level, that having the same remote control in every single unit makes a difference, right? And something that I bring up a lot is that because so many of our potential students reach out to me directly, what I end up hearing a lot of the times is the horror stories of where they're currently at. Right. And so what I bump into a lot is somebody who's like Nicole, who's managing units on behalf of other people. Like, it sort of fell into their lap the first time. Then they said, wow, there's good money here. So they share with other people, and they end up with 2, 3, 4 properties that are basically gifted to them. So what ends up happening is they have 4 units that between the 4 of them may be 50 miles apart. Right. And they're cleaning the unit, and all of the units have different stuff and different security systems, different TVs, different remote controls, all of it. And you make it even worse, a lot of times they're the ones cleaning it themselves. And so it just becomes an instant inability to scale. You have no room to do anything because you have no system, because you're just inheriting what's being handed to you. And so what a lot of folks do when they're first getting started in this, say that they're actually just going to go out and get their own units. They're not going to manage it. They sort of build their units the same way. They don't know who their customers are. They kind of build wherever they get a yes from a property owner or whatever. And they just kind of furnish it however they see fit. And there's no system. And again, they're in this exact same spot. They have no system, no ability to scale. They're stuck, and they see the income potential, and there's just no way for them to move beyond those first few units. So the system is just so important, having uniformity across the entire thing. And it's what allows Jay to have, 33 units in operation, 37 coming next week, and then more and more and more, because you just plug it in. I mean, from ordering your inventory to everything else, you're doing the same thing every single time. There's nothing to break, nothing new that needs to get documented. You hand it over to your VA, and they already know exactly what to do with it. It's just another reservation. It doesn't even show up really like a new unit, because they don't need to know that, right? So anyways, that's the point of all that in my rant there.
Yeah, no, it's just 100. It's a cost. It's a hidden cost of being inefficient. Forbes and many other organizations have done studies that just simply state, and it's just a very blanket statement, companies across the board give up an additional 20 to 30% of their revenue because they're inefficient. And anytime you're running inefficient, you literally are earning 30% less than you could be. And that's just really the answer a lot of times. And you know, it's kind of like when I first got married, one of the things I would Poppy would ask me, hey, what kind of cereal you want? I said Frosted Flakes, meaning Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. She would bring the whatever the Trader Joe's brand of flakes was. And I'm like, this isn't Frosted Flakes. She's like, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it is not. So ADT is not Vivint. The recommendations, any recommendations that you have received from us are because it's what we used, and we've likely have tested and put through the paces all the other things. So it doesn't mean that ADT doesn't work. I'm sure they're great. My mom has ADT. Strange. Anyway, again, if my mom said, "Hey, son, can you turn our house into a short-term rental?" The answer is yes, just as soon as you put in Vivint. Because I'm not doing it. Because now I have an entire separate process, and training people is expensive, and documenting processes is expensive, and it takes time to get those right. You can't afford to not have uniformity in how things are done. And here's the bad part is, unfortunately, there's a number of people in that category, Nicole, because what happens is when you first start something, you judge your success by, did I make any money? And if I made some money, then you know what? I must know what I'm doing. And that's where the trap is. As many people get stuck in the, I must know what I'm doing, I keep making money. Well, yeah, you may be providing value, but it doesn't mean that you're being the most efficient. And I see it every day. I see it every day. Because I've had some of my own students challenge me on there's no way you can do this on an hour a day. I know what it takes, blah, 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 blah. And I promise you, if I sat down with them, or if they just sat and followed me, they would be shocked, surprised, and amazed. And to a person, anytime someone has done this, they go, oh, that's not the way I'm doing it. I've been doing it this way, and it takes me so much longer. Yeah, that's I understand that, but and it's things like that make the difference, because there'd be no way that I could run. How many am I at? I have, that's right, 33 units. We're getting 4 more later this week, so I wouldn't be able to be at 37 units on an hour a day. And that's what's crazy to me, is it's an hour a day. And when we get to 40, it should be an hour a day. 50, an hour a day. You know, and those are the things that's what I meant by income to time ratio being out of whack when I was talking to Nevin earlier. This business is made for you, the busy person, because the busy, high level income earning person, because we can put a system around it and duplicate the level of income that you're used to, exceed it even, and it costs you, quote unquote, an hour a day. So was that it, Dave? Because we definitely went longer. I got very excited about all the technology today.
Nicole, you still have your hand up. Did you want to be brought on, or are all your questions answered? Oh, that's it. No, she put her hand down. Okay, she's all good. She says, okay, Jay, we have one more question, and it's actually me. I'm putting on my student hat real fast. I have a question for Jill and I for our own business.
All right.
We're looking at 30-day rentals, right? Like, I know you and I have had this conversation. We're here in the Pasadena, California area, for those of you, just to give some relatedness as to what we're dealing with. Pasadena is restrictive, like Santa Monica is restrictive. They've got, regulations around occupancy. They want, only 120 days, needs to be a primary residence. You got to get a permit, things like that, right?
Okay.
So the 30-day qualifier, right? So hey, if we're booking it out for 30 days at a time, We are definitely interested in cracking the Pasadena code because we keep getting offered units in Pasadena. All of our property managers have units in Pasadena. And I'm wondering, are we going to be able to crack Pasadena, or is it just going to be too hard, being that they have a permit process and they're very clear about you can't do this in a residence that you don't live in?
When you say you can't do this, the question is who's the you? So for example, that's not, by the way, that's not the issue. The issue is I want to know how they're enforcing the 120 day. That's the part that's more concerning than anything. Everything else I can deal with because I've dealt with it with people in Texas and New York and everywhere else. Anyway, because for example, in some cases, what that could mean, you, meaning you and your wife, may not even be the ones who get the actual permit. Maybe that's the landlord who the permit's in the landlord's name. And then I have a different question about, does the permit follow the property or does it stay with the landlord? But that's a whole nother story for another day. But if the permit's in the landlord's name, then that landlord is free to hire, for lack of a better way of putting it, a management company. Is he or she not?
Yeah.
And it's their primary residence, isn't it?
It is by ownership.
Yeah. Do you see where I'm going already?
Yeah, I do. Right.
So it's really the 120 days that's the issue.
Yeah, it's the 120 days. They're one of the cities. Because we tell the students, like, look, go to Google.
You got to go read it. Yeah, you got to read it. I haven't read Pasadena's. That's why I can't anymore.
And so we've read it, and I always have Jay Massey's voice echoing in the back of my head, like, we can probably figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Because we're one of the ones that are willing to figure out the ordinances in this area. We're able to do this and be above board. Pasadena would be a heck of a great area for us to be in. We're building out south of us, but what if we could go up into Pasadena and build there? It's worth us figuring out, and we're just starting to think about it in terms of, let's crack that code, because we built out the area below us and we like the number of units we have down there. Now, if we go to Pasadena, let's have a look, right?
All right, cool. So let me give you a really quick solve. Here's a quick solve. You ready?
Yeah.
This one's easy. Now, it's going to depend on location. And again, I don't know Pasadena, but this would completely work. What you do is you do student housing during the school year, and you do your 120 days during the summer. Problem solved.
Student housing during the school year. And then
9 months
days would be the summer. So from June through August, we would do the 120 days. And for everybody's knowledge, especially my own, how does that address that? What's the student housing thing accomplish for us?
Well, so when it comes down to student housing, now what you have the ability to do is you would rent, you could do a per bed or per bedroom model. Okay. But for a longer contract because again, the only thing that ordinance is going to apply to is stays that are under 30 days. So understand that. So anything that's ever longer than 30 days is not into this classification. So if you've got somebody staying for a school year, let's call that 9 months, then you've gotten more than market rent for those 9 months on that particular property. So if it's a 3-bedroom house or whatever it is, you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You've got your additional revenue there. And then during the summer, all you're really doing is your rates change. That's what happens. Your rates change because it's now summer pricing.
Okay, got it. And so what if the same student, I guess it wouldn't be an issue then.
Your rates change. The same student, your rates change.
And they can stay in the summer, but your rates are going up to our short-term.
Correct.
Fascinating. All right, to be continued in the student group.
I just thought of that because you asked the question, and so that we're clear. It's not like I had that one like saved for somebody. It was just, you asked, I was like, okay, so here's the first thing that comes to my mind, because it's only going to apply for stays it's the 120 days. That's the hard one, because I want to know how they're measuring that and enforcing that, because there are too many platforms for them to manage. And that's the one I don't understand how they would actually track or do, because, you know, you could just think about it. You could have 2 21-day stays back to back and then get a 60-day stay. Okay. But that could look like, if someone's doing the 120 days or whatever, it could totally look like it, but it's not. And then stay after the 60-day stay could be 15.
Right.
And I don't see how they would track it, because that would be a nightmare of tracking and enforcement. But I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, right? I mean, we've got so much going on with the Rose Bowl and everything. I don't know how much of a force they have actually applied to monitor. Like, who knows? So
I don't know.
The follow-up question then would be, if we're doing student housing, would you set it up the same? It would have the noise aware, it would have the Vivint, it would have everything.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah, student housing. Right? Yeah. But
now I actually want to see if I can try to sneak a camera inside, because they're doing stupid stuff.
Well, we've got Caltech there, so hopefully it's a lot like the Big Bang Theory, and they're all just kind of sitting around watching Star Trek.
And you know that ain't it.
All right. Well, I think we have reached the end here, Jay. I don't see any.
Okay, this is good. Yeah, no, we probably wore everybody out, because I'm all excited because the technology worked today. I just and for those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome, because I know there was a lot of you who just joined us over the weekend. You took advantage of the offer that we made, and welcome. This Q&A with something we have been doing for our students for years, and it has been there to support them, to help sure to make sure that they could keep their journey going. Buying apartment buildings, doing short-term rentals, cell phone tap, all kinds of stuff is what it ultimately comes down to. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I appreciate you enduring the test, and especially and where else? If you're watching on the Facebook page, the CashFlowDiary Facebook page, I appreciate you enduring the test. And in the mastery group for sure, because we like to test, make sure that we can upgrade our ability to deliver better quality content. And I'm kind of excited how this worked, because we got way more people talking to us today, and it had to be because the technology was easier for you guys, even though it was a bear on our end. But it's easier for you, so I can see us sticking to something like this to make it easier for the back and forth and the communication, for sure. So with all that being said,
CashFlowDiary.com/analytics, everyone. CashFlowDiary.com.
Oh, that's right. Did you even show them?
Registered for the free data analysis training. That is next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the 15th of August at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to do a free data analytics live training where Jay's going to be going through all of the financial vocabulary, the metrics to pay attention to. He's going to share the ones that you can completely ignore. Just how do we go about using this information for ourselves so that the data has us not hemorrhage money in our business, right? We don't want to leave money on the table that the data could have helped us make. So make sure that you attend that data analytics training. So again, last time, CashFlowDiary.com/analytics. Register there, and then you'll be reminded via email as it gets closer.
So yeah, and with that being said, what you're seeing right here, whoops, wrong screen, right there, that's what the page looks like when you get there. So make sure you put your, first name, email address. You'll get the information that you need. And to give you a quick sample of some of the things that I will be discussing, what you're looking at right here is 2018, the 2018 revenue for our portfolio. I think this was like 19 units, something like that in operation. I don't actually remember all the numbers off the top of my head. But looking at this, everything looks fine. But the question is when this screen, I'm looking for a particular screen. Give me 1 second so I can get a different number on the screen, because some of you you don't know, well, you don't know what you don't know about your own numbers. There we go. Specifically, this one right here is the average revenue per guest per night, $68.84. While I'm okay with that, I also know that on average, me personally, I can tell you I left approximately $7 per guest per night on the table all last year. Now, I know why that happened, but I'm telling you that number, I know that number is lower than it should have been. And I know exactly what to do about it and how to increase it. Now, some of you might not even know how to get that number, let alone what to do about that number, or if that number is too high or too low, or how to compare that number to previous results to figure out what you need to do. This is important because here's what I know. A lot of you want more units, and one of the questions you're asking yourself right now is, do I need a 1-bedroom? Do I get a 2-bedroom? What about a house? And you don't know how to make that decision. Anyway, for those of you who want to know stuff like that and break this business down to an exact science in so many ways so that you can make the right decisions to grow that revenue, cashflowdiary.com/analytics. And I'm looking forward to taking you on that journey. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today, like a lot of fun. And I am definitely looking forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.